Hi, everybody. My name is Wendy Sukier, and I lead the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub. I want to just give people a moment or so to log in so you can watch the participant numbers climb. And we have a lottery on who gets closest to predicting the number of people who will join us today. Susan wants to join the lottery. Before we start, Susan, just type in your prediction of how many people will register. I can't tell you what you will win, of course. And Susan kicked us off with a question, but I would encourage all of you to post your questions during the chat. Susan's already lost. She predicted 32 people would join, and we're at 74. There are always a range of optimists and pessimists. We're still at 74. There may be a few others who join, but we're already 3 minutes after the hour and we only have 60. So I'll proceed. As I said, my name is Wendy Sukier and I lead the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, which is a network of 10 sites across the country, plus hundreds of partners. And our mandate is really to try to strengthen the ecosystem to support women entrepreneurs across this great country. I want to start by acknowledging that I'm joining you from the traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, Chippewa, and Haudenosaunee people here in Toronto, and wherever you are in this country joining in this session today. You're on traditional territory of Indigenous peoples, and many of us are settlers to this country and really recognize how important it is to work hard to advance truth and reconciliation. And I think certainly at the Diversity Institute, we try very hard to engage with Indigenous women entrepreneurs to ensure that their needs are met as we develop programs and policies and recommendations. So today's panel, How to Pitch Your Business, is really focused not on pitching the way we often talk about it in terms of attracting investors, although there's certainly some similarity, but thinking about how to engage with large suppliers, whether they're private sector or public sector. And so today we have two successful entrepreneurs with us, Anila Zabe and Mildred Murphy. And we also have Nadine Shaw, who is a strategic sourcing manager, senior strategic sourcing manager, with CBRE, and she has a really unique perspective on what large businesses and large purchasers are looking for with entrepreneurs. So before we dive in, I'll give everybody just an opportunity to quickly tell their story so you know who we have on the panel. So I'll start with you, Mildred. Please tell us a bit about your story.
Hi, everybody. I am Mildred Murphy. Thank you for including me, giving me the opportunity to tell my story. I'm from the island of the Bahamas. It's a small island in the middle of the ocean, I like to say. My father was from the island of Haiti, which is nearby of the Bahamas. And the Haitian people is more look up to as more in the service industry. So my father was a servant, and so am I to this day. My father was a painter, and he was more what you would call a handyman. And the Haitians more rely on the boys do everything because men supposed to be in charge, household, any painting, handyman work that comes, under the boys in the family. And then I wanted to get in the male dominated industry, not only to prove to my dad that it can be done, but also to perfect it as a woman. Thank you for having me here today. And I'm so excited to answer some of your questions and be here.
And Mildred, just tell us a bit about your company and its success in procurement, just to set the context.
Okay, so Noontide, when we started at first, we started in the Bahamas, and the idea was to work in remote islands to have the ability to connect suppliers, vendors, and to meet the needs of our clients. So we started doing that in the facility services industry. So our first contract, which was one of its most, I would say at that time, challenging, because that island, it was very remote, and we had to use our skills, what we had, to deliver on time, on budget, to satisfy our customer. We took our humble beginning with my humble beginning background, bring it on the world stage, and crave and beg, demand our seat at the table by performance, knowing our customers and delivering. And it gave me an opportunity that I am here today to be able to sit and discuss my success story with you. So basically, it's, for as big as our company grows, it still remains the same. We're always remain humble servant to the cause. Whether we're working in Halifax or in America, we have one motto: everyone under the Noontide umbrella is a servant to the cause. The customer is king. We meet their needs. Consistency, persistency, never giving up, which equates to success for Noontide.
Thanks so much. And Anila, can you tell us a little bit about what Emergitel does and your experience as a successful provider?
Absolutely. My name is Anila Zabe. I'm the founder and CEO of Emergitel. It's a pioneer recruitment agency that has reinvented the way traditional recruitment occurs. I'm very happy to be here to share my story. And I'm from Pakistan, and again, from a very humble background. I came to Canada about 24 years ago as a student to get my master's degree in electrical and computer engineering, which I did. I was expecting at that time with my first one, and I had zero money to survive. So I did survive based on TA, teaching assistantships, and I was able to finish my master's. When I entered in the recruitment, in the technical world, I worked in the corporate sector and soon realized that there's a gap that exists in the industry, especially in the IT and telecom. And the gap was that the general inability for general purpose HR recruiters to line up the right technical candidates for our technical employers. And that existed because they simply were not engineers or developers to do so. So I decided to form Emergitel based on a model that's called three-dimensional recruitment model from the basement of my home. I was the one person, I was the salesperson, janitor, recruiter, accountant, everything. And it was a bootstrap company. There was no venture capitalist involved. Long story short, Emergitel currently serves the entire landscape in Canada for employers such as TELUS, Rogers, banking sector, management consulting companies. We were founded in 2006, and fast forward so many years, we are still on our way to expand our Times portfolio. So that's my journey, and I'm very happy to continue the discussion along how I can help audience and people, especially women, that's my passion there, to see how they can continue their journeys forward in the direction they want to go.
Thanks so much. And Nadine, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having all of us here, including myself. I'm Nadine Shah, and I am the Senior Strategic Sourcing Manager at CBRE. I currently am supporting the IBM Canada Limited and Kyndryl Canada Limited accounts. So I want to tell you a little bit about CBRE and who we are. CBRE Group Inc. is publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange as CBRE, and we are the world's largest commercial real estate services and investment firm with the #1 global market position in leasing, property sales, property management, occupier outsourcing, and valuation. Additionally, our development business, which is Trammell Crow Company, is the largest in the US, and we operate one of the largest investment management businesses, CBRE Investment Management, globally. CBRE holds 60% ownership interest in Turner and Townsend Holdings Limited, which is a global professional services company that specializes in program management, project management, and cost consulting across the commercial real estate, infrastructure, and natural resources sector. We are the largest shareholder in Industrious, a provider of premium flexible workspace solution, and we are a financial sponsor of and strategic partner with Altus Power Inc. That is also traded on the New York Stock Exchange as AMPS, a leading provider of solar energy solutions for commercial and industrial properties. My role within CBRE is that I primarily focus on the facility management aspects of our clients' buildings. So anywhere from janitorial or housekeeping services all the way through to electrical and plumbing supplies and services. I thought it was really important that the audience understood from a corporation what we do in order to identify if their products and services they're able to provide that to us. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks very much, Nadine. And I'll just do a quick follow-up on that. So can you give us some idea of the scale of your purchasing every year and whether or not you have a diversity procurement policy in place that creates opportunities for diverse entrepreneurs?
So within and yes, we do. So we are very much focused in terms of our supplier diversity. And our mission within CBRE is a commitment to an inclusive environment that reflects the clients we serve by providing everyone with the opportunity to succeed. Values, we really do value the differences of each individual, and we recognize their contribution to a firm's success. Within CBRE, we have a global supply diversity team, and it's so exciting because I am also one of the Canadian champions within supply diversity. There is a commitment that we've got in terms of all of our sourcing activities. We have a minimum of at least 2 diverse suppliers that are participating in those events. So we really put a lot of emphasis and support in terms of making sure we reach out and we gain access to those diverse suppliers. We've also invested in a platform where our diverse suppliers can register themselves. And throughout this event, I will post the link as well. In order for anyone who's on the call is interested, you can register at no cost. So that's some of it. In terms of the question you had asked me, we have, we provide services within 100 plus countries. And in terms of our exact number in terms of sourcing activities, I can't give that specific because every account is a little bit different.
But it's more than $100.
It absolutely is in the millions or billions, absolutely. And it is critical that everyone understands we do make it a priority to engage and reach out to it, ensure that we have that diverse blend vendors participating as well.
So when you think about your efforts to build the diversity in your supply chain and to create opportunities, particularly for women and racialized groups and so on, tell us a little bit about what you see works and doesn't work. Like, where are the barriers? Where are you going, oh, I only wish they had done this or that? What do you see as some of the factors that really help ensure small businesses can do business with big businesses like you?
I think it's so from a perspective of looking at, you know, women tend to underestimate themselves. So I'll just preface this. I think women must be really confident in their abilities and they must be able to articulate themselves well, right? Don't be intimidated. Preparation is very key when doing this, but I want you to know that, you know, as an organization, we encourage our diverse vendors, if you're not able to perform provide us with a product or service, to engage with other diverse vendors, right? So that collaboration of, you know, women helping other women is critical. The networking opportunities is critical when we bring everyone together. We're trying now to encourage our non-diverse vendors to work with our diverse vendors. And that's part of the communication, collaboration, and outreach programs that we've got in order to bring people together to start working on that.
Thanks very much. That's really helpful. And maybe, Mildred, you could, is there anything that you would add based on your success in doing business? Maybe you can tell us about one example where you broke into a big contract and what really helped your success.
Okay, so for me, what helped my success today is again, persistency, knowing my product, and relationship building. Business itself is built on relationship. So once you have that relationship, then you have a way in the door, which then brings the contracts. And my experience with my largest, well, not only contract, but clients, is that, again, it's relationship, knowing your product, persistency, on time, on budget. And that's what the client is often look for. And once the client gives you an opportunity to pitch or to present your product to them, that means they must somehow looking for something that you may have. So when that opportunity is given to you, you want to make sure that you have the knowledge of your product, that you can deliver, you can rely on your team. Your team can answer just as much questions as yourself, as, again, because business itself is built on relationship, not only with the clients, but also within the organization.
And what about you, Anila? Can you give us an example of a success that you had and what you thought the factors were that made you successful?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So as I was mentioning before, for me, I do not have any formal knowledge of business. I'm an engineer and probably a rusty one right now. So for me, what made me successful, I think, as a business owner, is listening to your customers and getting to your customer closer than anybody else. For example, Emergitel's foundation, we're a services-based business. So our foundation is recruitment services, but there are so many recruitment services companies available. So the question was, how do we differentiate ourselves over there? And it helped me, being an engineer, to understand that there's still a niche available there, which is that how can I bring more value to my customers? Their challenge was that they're not able to find the right talent. And even if the talent is presented to them, it doesn't pass their criteria because technically the talent is not screened. They're not tested. They're not given tests. For example, a Java developer, how is a general purpose HR recruiter screen a Java developer other than asking questions, how many years of experience you have, and can you do this, can you do that? So the real compatibility between employer and employee was missing because of a lack of a solid qualification process. So that's the listening to the customer, understanding their challenges. I brought this model back and I started inventing something, which is, why don't we inject the technical subject matter expertise into the recruitment process along with the recruiters? So it complements them, it asks the right questions and knows the answers of those questions too. So I brought, for example, for a Java developer, position, I brought along a senior Java developer to sit with the recruiter in the interview. So we right now know what is a good candidate or not. So through this innovative thinking, I guess, outside the box, people actually used to make fun of me at that time and say that, you know what, how are you going to afford the cost of, a subject matter expert into this? And the timeline is going to be huge if you're going to do this with every candidate. So these were the challenges, but with time, with passage of time, we were able to iron those out and build the foundation of the company on this strong process for customers. So, and similarly, the second point I would say is the customization that helped for me. I don't try to serve every customer with the same type of process procedure. Again, listen to them, what's the best option for you to serve you, and then bring it back and customize our process and procedures for them and make their life easier. And that's what I think customers love, is that we're not trying to fit and mold them into something, but are ready to accommodate what works best for them.
So Nadine, can you talk a little bit more about advice you would give entrepreneurs in the audience about resources and tools and tips that they can use to strengthen their ability to do business with businesses like yours?
Absolutely. Now, if you are a member of any of the associations or agencies such as CAMC, WEBE Canada, CGLCC, IWSCC, or WeConnect International, you can obtain guidance and templates which can be used to prepare an effective pitch. But having a capability statement that is thorough will differentiate your product or service offering from other companies. So you can also collaborate with corporations like ourselves to understand the specific information they would like to learn more about. Now, I have been scheduling I feature monthly diverse suppliers all the time. And so what I tend to do is to provide an outline, identify, we always start the meeting with a safety or a inclusion message. And then after we begin there, you tell us a little bit about yourself as an organization. Right? What types of products and services do you have to offer? Are you certified with any of the agencies? Some of the accolades and wins. What we tend to do is not really, enjoy and celebrate the success. You need to identify this to corporations, right? Are there any up and coming events, or sometimes you may have your roadmap, 3-year, 5-year roadmap out. What type of capabilities do you have, and the geographic coverage that you can provide your product and services? In addition to that, we tend to look at if you are providing services to a current client today, are they similar in size? Because then you're drawing references. And so the corporations you're addressing, they will get more of an insight as to who you are, your capability, and that type of details. So that's the advice I would give, Wendy.
Thanks so much. That's really helpful. And Anila or Mildred, anything that you would like to emphasize in terms of things that you felt were helpful on your journey?
Mila?
Yeah, sure. So I think I'm gonna describe a statement that has helped me throughout my journey, is that your net worth is your network. Mm-hmm. And as Mildred said, but I think people use it very in different sense. To me, the relationship building is that you have to build trusted relationships, and it takes time to do so. It doesn't happen in a day. You have to work hard towards it and genuinely try to solve the problems of your customers. So, if they say, if you help enough people achieve what they want to achieve, eventually you would achieve what you're trying to achieve. And not only that, you have to do it yourself, because it's very, I think, easy to apply things to yourself and, learn and all that. But when you're running an organization, especially when you've built it from scratch, then the challenge is not just yourself. It's like your team, how you are going to communicate these values to the weakest link in your team, and rolling up your sleeves and making sure that all of the employees are your ambassadors. I think that has been the toughest thing for me, but at the same time, the rewards has been so fulfilling. Like, I think I've been there, done it, but when I see my team being successful, I see them winning, I see them helping someone out, that's an ultimate level of leadership joy. So, and change is the only constant. These type of challenges keep on coming up, but I always say leadership is a beautiful thing. And I think if we go into the essence of it, go to the deep level of it, there's nothing rewarding than this role.
And just, I know that Noontide Service Corporation is a sort of end-to-end facility service contracting company. So Mildred, do you also contract with SMEs as part of your and self-employed individuals as part of your value chain?
Yes. Like I started earlier, my whole business concept came from my dad. My dad would wake up every day, get dressed in his painting, and then go out to look for a job. And then I thought, every person in the service industry, every contractor, sometimes I refer to them as the truck and ladder guy who can't afford, the fleece of trucks and the staff, but this is just one handy guy who's really good at what he's doing and looking for an opportunity, which was like my dad. And then I thought, how about with Noontide to give all those now our vendors a place to perform. You may have Joe down the street who's an excellent plumber, and he did not went to plumbing school, or maybe he couldn't afford, like myself, my parents couldn't afford to give me the education. What they gave me was experience and knowledge to know that this is where I want to be and work really hard to get there. Joe may identify to that. Joe will someday would love to work on the platform, one of CBRE's buildings, but he may never get there because first he can't afford the insurance, he can't afford the red tape to get through. So someone like Noontide, our company, we come in, we meet the criterias, we manage the risk, and we give Joe the platform to perform. Our company, diversity is in our DNA. We started from the ground up, and we understand and we can identify with all the Joes and the Pauls who just want an opportunity. And what makes it so valuable for us is that those people, they rely on that paycheck to feed their family. So their determination to perform is on point. Unlike the way I would say this, where you have numbered staff, the way we look at it with our company. You have a guy who showed up and he swiped. He's going to get 40 hours regardless. That don't necessarily mean he's going to perform. But Joe knows he has 7 kids at home. He needs to go and paint this building and make sure it's done right to satisfy Noontide. All Noontide need is the ability to satisfy our customers. So we create that marketplace. So then we have big companies connect with the average Joes of this
So you're
industry.
like an intermediary in some ways. So you've been successful in getting contracts with those big companies.
Yes.
And then you're creating opportunities for a lot of people who may just be self-employed or independent contractors. I think
in fact, our platform, the Vision platform, is exactly that. It gives you that marketplace to perform, and it connects you with the rest of the world as an average contractor. And then to run on again, to run on that subject is, for example, you have, let's say you have a bank that needs to be serviced, and it's somewhere in a remote location, and there's a Joe there who can do the work that needs to be done. We don't need to bring outside help. We identify talent within the community and give them opportunities, and that's what Noontide does.
That's great. Thank you so much. So I'm going back to you, Nadine. Again, you've seen a lot of companies come in and succeed or not succeed, and you talked about a lot of the sort of broad issues that you think are important. Can you talk more specifically about what happens, for example, with tenders or RFPs specifically, and whether there are any tips for how to succeed with those. Because I know a lot of times people see the paperwork that's required with a bid and run the other way. And I wonder if you can just kind of walk us through some of the issues that companies may face in wanting to compete on those competitive type bids, and what some of the secrets for success are there.
Absolutely. It will be my pleasure. So first of all, when you're looking at the tips and tricks, I would recommend that you keep your pitch simple and concise, right? And that's if you're having a in-person. Again, clearly articulating who you are, your product offering, and the benefits of using your company versus others. Again, I go back to a capability statement would be a great guideline, but also incorporating a real story experience in your pitch, making it your own, really personalizing it, and include the essentials. Make sure your presentation is crystal clear to anyone and everyone, and talk a bit about yourself and your team's accomplishments. What have you done lately? Addressing the competition, and again, what differentiates you from your competition, and provide a high level statistics of your successes. Remember, again, always to identify your product and service offering. But when you look at responding to a bid, there is a process. Sometimes it's not uncommon for you to pick up the phone and ask corporations, what do you use in terms of your platform? You may have Bid and Go, there's different platforms that everyone uses. And if you're not able to understand what that is, you're not able to navigate through and make sure you're included. So that's critical. When one is responding to an RFP as well, I'd like you to take a step back and understand, is there an evaluation matrix? Focus and hone in on that, because your response will be evaluated based on the content and the responses to that, right? Always make sure that, you go into it doing your very best. And sometimes we may succeed, and a lot of times we may not, but we don't give up. Because if at first you don't succeed, you continue to try again. Ask for a debrief. Get more of an insight so that you will be better prepared for the next opportunity, right? And by putting yourself out there and engaging, others would see who you are. Again, from a capability statement, Mildred and Anila, you may start off your business having X number of services, and over time you build on that, you expand that, you grow. You have to make sure that's communicated as well. And in part of the RFP, also state your future. In the future, we're looking at investing here or expanding our services there. Those are key points, Wendy, that I think will be very beneficial for everyone to take a look at holistically.
And it's interesting, and there are a couple of questions in the chat, I think, or in the Q&A that we've already answered, but one of them is the question of how you, Anelia, you've just cut your head off, sorry. How you got your first customer, because in my experience, when I think about the history of the Diversity Institute, and we've had quite a lot of success with competitive bids, RFPs, and so on, and lots of failures as well. But very often success leads to success, because it's often hard to break in, right? To get that first customer. And once you get that first big customer, then you've got a bit of a track record, and you can publicize the fact that you're a provider to, if you're in consumer goods, break into Walmart or Starbucks, you've basically made it, and can then leverage that to get in other places. And similarly, if you're in trades, construction, technology, you get a big contract and successfully deliver with government or with an organization like CBRE, and then you can leverage that to get more and more business, because you can show you're reliable, you can show you can do business with the best. So I'm just wondering, could everybody share a story about their first big success? And maybe Anelia, you can kick us off.
Yeah, I think I should have described this earlier. This is the highlight of, I think, Emergital's journey. So here I was, and I will like to take you back in 2009. So the company was just 3 years old. And there were a total of 4 employees, I think, and even one of them was not full-time. And I was trying to expand through selling this recruitment service and how we are different. And we were working, and I have no, hesitation in taking the name of that big customer because I have a lot of respect for them for giving me the chance. So TELUS was looking for a supplier, and they had 100+ recruitment agencies that they were working with at that time. And they were trying to streamline the process, of course, some cost cutting, and their goal was to bring the number of suppliers, staffing suppliers, down to 7. So 100+, they were trying to bring it down to 7, and there were all sort of sharks out there, big recruitment companies. Emergitel at that time, our role was that we only had about 20 contractors with TELUS that were working, and we were still trying to expand. And when we received the RFP, of course, it was very scary. It was a big RFP. So we started writing down the response. There were 4 different levels of qualification. So based on our abilities and capability, we were able to qualify for 3 levels. The 4th level was that they asked us to come to Vancouver with decision makers, and they're going to be putting us in a room for full straight 1 day, and they would be just grilling us or some sort of evaluation criteria they would try to bring down and announce the final vendors. It was, I would say, and those of you in the audience who have been there, they can relate that this was a very nerve-wrenching process, and especially knowing that you are the leanest, you are the poorest among all of them, and the scare of working with the big corporation was there, because you think that everybody else is, better than you, and they can just, do it, and you won't be able to. But I think all I had at that time was a real passion and confidence. And I know these are cliche words, ladies, but still, they help you. At some point, they are the ones who make the difference. So you go out there, and I still remember the chief procurement officer was really rough on me, and they asked questions that generally it would melt you down and break you down into tears. And they were asking questions like, what if you disappear from the face of the earth tomorrow? What would happen? And who's doing your financing? Are you being helped by some relatives to do things? And being able to keep a straight face and telling them that we have a plan. We might not have all the money and finances at this point, but this is the value we can bring into you. And believe me, everything revolves around 3 things, in my opinion, 3 items: quality, turnaround time, and the cost to do it. And you've got to be able to show the client how you're going to do it. And you talk about the elevator pitch and the components and items in it. Your elevator pitch not only has to be describe what you do, but describe how you do it, that it's different than rest, and how it brings more value to your customer. So I guess at that time, again, the vision that I had is that, what is the forward thinking in terms of recruitment? How you are going to cut the ties with the traditional process and bring some innovation into this process. So all of those things combined with the passion and plan, I think we just went in there with full force. I still remember after that meeting, I wasn't feeling very good, because I think, it was a rough meeting and I'm not going to get it. I came back to Toronto. I canceled my trip, whatever, to Rocky Mountains. And I got a phone call, and they said, you know what? I still remember it was month of November, that you are selected, Emergitel, go with full force. And from there on, and many of you can relate to that, it's as Wendy said, one customer. We worked hard really to build the reputation, and we didn't care about the profit at that time, because I think for every business owner, it's more than the profit and making money. So, long story short, after that, we got similar RFPs. We responded the same way, and here we are.
What a great story. What a great story. Mildred, did you have a similar breakthrough with a big client that laid the groundwork for your company's success? Could you tell us briefly?
Yes, I did. My most biggest client and success story was also, it helped me overcome my fears. I remember being called to speak on mold remediation in the office of the Prime Minister in the Bahamas. There's a crowd, all the office staff by this point walked out on strike. The Prime Minister and his team needs to know what solution my company and some other companies has to fix it. So now the Bahamas is still very much a male-dominated country. Construction, mold remediation, and all those are, let's just say I was the only woman in the room. So now I walked in with all these cabinet members, the leader of the country, and I need to tell them why I think my company is best qualified to bring this building back to occupancy standard and get the crowd, the staff back indoors. And I tell you that when the first thing that came to mind was that I was afraid. So then I thought, fear is also my superpower. It's my internal messaging system telling me you either run or you can face it, but only way to find out what's on the other side is to face it. So then I lobbied my company to them, and I tell them why I think my company will be best fit to do the job. And I told them for two reasons alone: time and budget, which would lead to the third, relationship, which should have been the first, but thank God, I guess I performed real well because I still work with them today. But with given that opportunity, we came in, we did what we was asked, and we, I guess, perform at a level that of satisfactory, because we was called to then assess every building in the country to make sure that they're all up to occupancy standard for mold, because Bahamas, because it's on an island, there's always mold issue. And to this very day, I still remember one of my competitors looked me in the eye and said, well, when I walk in the office, well, first of all, everybody looked back to see, well, where's the rest of the team? And one of my competitors, what do you have to make you any different in terms of getting the job done? I said, what I have is the will to do it. Give me an opportunity. And I'm happy every day that that door was open for me. First, it was a big platform that helped me overcome my fears. And till to this day, I am still performing now on the world stage all across Canada and United States and some parts of the Caribbean. But it still goes back to one simple strategy, which is, it leads to a few. Number one, business is built on relationship. Remember where you come from so you can have a clear vision of where you're going and what you need to do to get there. The customer is king. The customer, you can't mold the customer to your liking. You need to mold yourself to the customer's satisfaction. Persistency, consistency, perform. And then for every client, Nadine will agree with this, time and budget. And here we are today. I am so grateful. We still been and still are giving opportunities to perform and to tell my story. My father is no longer with me, but I know every time he rolls around in his grave, he see his little girl painting, but I have everyone else who's like him painting all across the world. And that, I don't know, it's still
Yes, it's amazing.
Inspirational.
Yes.
You know, we've I'm monitoring the questions, and we're trying to a couple of the questions are people want to reach out to individual panelists for contacts information and so on. But I think one of the things that I wanted to come back to, and I think this is something, Nadine, maybe you can take a little bit of time to walk us through. You know, this session was about pitching and how to pitch your business and what the things are that contribute to the success of a business trying to sell its services to another business. I wonder if you could just take a little while to elaborate on your point about what a pitch should be, what a pitch should contain, and maybe even give us an example of how you would pitch your company if you were trying to sell your services. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about pitching?
Absolutely. So Nadine likes to simplify things. So I'm going to say something to everyone. Don't laugh, but if you want to, it's okay. A perfect pitch can leave a lasting impression, which rarely can lead to opportunities, right? And I don't want to oversimplify things, but it is simple. You have a product or service offering that others are looking to procure. And so when you take a step back, you need to engage, find a way of, you know, communicating with the audience, with the person that you're providing this pitch to. And sometimes understanding your audience is key, because you may say something at the first 20 seconds of that meeting. You've got to either get it in or you're out, because you'll lose the person. The perfect pitch should be done within 30 seconds of that meeting. I am this and I can provide that, with an experience or an examples, which is what you provide. And then that piques and sparks interest, right? So when I do and facilitate those monthly sessions, when I give an agenda, it's focusing on the key components, because as you establish, back to Anila's point and Mildred, you build a relationship, you listen to references of other organizations that you've done business with, then it piques interest and they want to learn more. And that's your segue to take it offline. Always follow up with a meeting, whether you think it went well or it didn't go well. You have an opportunity to bridge this gap. So you will contact and say, please, if this is not appropriate time for us, can you kindly let me know when we can? And I operate where I love speaking to people. If you email, you find that a week go by, 2 weeks go by, you want to know what's the right period to wait before you engage with that individual. And so I have no issues if somebody cold calls me, I will answer. And then we can schedule another time to have a conversation. But I think this is truly critical in terms of doing that. And everyone on this call, if at first, you pitch your business, you can see from the person that you're pitching it to, their feedback. Take some of this information and input and make adjustments. Remember, it's no different than any other service. We have to have our own KPIs, our own metrics. We need to reevaluate, reflect what worked, what didn't work, make some changes. It's like a resume. You have to make sure it's kept up to date, right? And that would be my advice to the audience.
And I'm gonna not to take too much of your time, but a couple of things come to mind. There's the idea of the elevator pitch, which is, if you got on an elevator with your potential next client and you had 30 seconds to make an impression, what would you say? And you need to practice and practice and test and practice and test and practice. And that's one of the things many of the organizations that are part of the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub actually have courses on how to pitch. They have opportunities for you to do your pitch, to get videoed, to get feedback, to refine it. Because, as Anila said, sometimes you go into very hostile environments and they're going to pick you apart. But if you're receptive to that kind of feedback, you pick yourself up, you listen to what was relevant, and you recalibrate, it can actually be, it can be cruel to be kind, but often getting really clear information and feedback on what you do well and what you don't do well becomes very, very important. So, it's practice also makes perfect. I think that's really critical. But the other kind of pitching, I think, that we're all familiar with is the idea of putting together, say, a pitch deck, right? So sometimes you've got your 30 seconds, And then you're going to have an opportunity to do a follow-up. And sometimes people write a memo, sometimes they got a prospectus, but sometimes you can just quickly put together a PowerPoint presentation, pitch deck, which could be used for investors, but could also be used for prospective clients. And we do that all the time. Just from your perspective, Nadine, what are the key elements? So we talked about what the 30-second pitch looks like. What are the key elements that would be critical in putting together a pitch deck? You've done your 30-second elevator pitch. Someone's kind of going, oh, maybe they have something I need. Now you have the chance to follow up. You might not be able to get to the face-to-face meeting quite yet. What can you send that will help a prospective customer really understand what it is you have to offer?
It's a great question, Wendy, and a capability statement, which I've seen recently, a lot of organizations are refining theirs. It's a one-pager. Clearly, and that one pager has different segments in it. It says who you are, how long you've been in business. It identifies the product or service offering. And that gives you an opportunity of capturing that right there. And it also gives, if you're certified with any of the agency or councils, it identifies that in there. And at the end of it, it says, we are happy to take any opportunities, calls, or questions that you may have, inviting one to please reach out, right? But those are the key components that one is looking for. We don't do references and all that on that one pager. It's there to really sell and identify who you are, the types of products or services you've got to offer, and then again, looking at the certification that you may have already and the accolades. Never sell yourself short. There's a lot of great success stories and awards that you may have won. Identify that, put that in a one pager. It does not have to be complicated. And that's my advice to everyone.
That's great. And I know we're running out of time, but I'm looking in the questions. And so one question for the panelists is whether you have pitch suggestions when your product is not an essential item. So I guess if your product is something that might be an add-on or a supplementary kind of item, so it's not necessarily applying to a known need. You're trying to actually create an understanding of an unmet need. Anila, I see your hand up. What would you say?
So without knowing what that specific product or service could be, I think I would emphasize on doing the research on how you think it's going to work in an end-to-end scenario and spell things out for your customers. Like literally you have to give whatever is in your mind into a vision and say, this component, my product or services fits in that bigger picture. Literally spell it out. And these days, I know the competition is a lot more because the pitch and decks and all that have gone into a visual side of things as well. So what's happening is that it's no longer just a verbal statement. People are using all sort of visual methods and techniques. So, and I know it depends upon budget as well, but getting the feedback, iterative process, fitting in your product and services in the big picture, spelling it out for the customer and testing it out with potential beta customers. And then again, refining it is probably the best way I would do it.
I think that's such a important thing because it is really different if you're bidding for an RFP where a vendor has said, I need the cheapest, best support for remediation of our public housing in Toronto, please. That's something Mildred could probably do for us. So that's something where the customer knows they need a service or a product. But when you're looking at a lot of the emerging opportunities and innovation, for example, we're doing a lot of work now on the green economy and how you start to get everyone from manufacturers to retailers to start to rethink their supply chain and look at how they can contribute to net zero economy, you're actually selling something that they don't yet know what they need. And so that's a different context, I think, that we have to recognize in this environment. And I know we could talk and talk and talk, and these were incredibly practical and inspirational stories, but I just wanted to give everybody sort of a minute to wrap up, because you now have well-established businesses, and you all, you shared some stories about how challenging it was to get off the ground, and some of the things that helped with your success. And I think Nadine's given us some really concrete, specific advice on how to break into some of these supply chains. But if you were just to provide one tip in terms of advice for some of those SMEs and entrepreneurs who have spent the last hour with us, one thing that they should do in order to grow their business, find new customers, and pitch effectively, what would it be? And I'll start with you, Mildred, but quickly, less than a minute.
Yes. So the first thing you do is know your product and let go your fears, because sometimes we are paralyzed by our fears. We're really good at what we can provide, but we're too afraid to step up and say, yes, I can. So let go your fears, know your product, believe in yourself, and always remember, be you, because everyone else is taken.
That's great. Anila.
Yeah, I think I would. So in addition to whatever every entrepreneur, has the basic stuff, I think I would emphasize on researching and identifying your target market, so that you're gonna be able to have some low-hanging fruits and some successes under your belt that you can build and then go out to the market, which is bigger. So, and the doing research, meaning, it could mean networking, it could mean talking to a lot of people and understanding what's the best market or customers to sell your service. That's what my advice would be.
Well, thanks very much. And last word to you, Nadine.
Thank you so much. I would say, to add to everything that's been said, be intentional, confident, and don't be afraid or intimidated by asking questions. Continue to utilize the power of referrals and networking, in addition to whether or not you're with an agency like WeBe or CAMC. Take advantage of that and use the guidelines and templates available. Women helping other women should be a best practice. So again, if you have friends in the industry, let them be your ear and you give your pitch to them and refine it, constantly making those changes. That would be my advice.
And that's a great place for us to end. I know that my team's been putting resources in the chat and the Q&A, but my last pitch is for the Ask Give platform that WEKH runs. If you have questions, if you need help, that's a place to go to get support from other women who have done it before, who have contacts and can help you. So thank you very much to our great panelists. And you can see Karmjeet's put the Ask Give platform in the chat. We'll end it here. We will do a follow-up evaluation with some additional resources. And thanks to everybody who joined us today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.